Okay, well, good morning everyone and welcome to a pretty mild Luton airport. And I'm doing something today that I've actually never done before. And that is because I'm flying on Ryanair. We're on the cheapest ticket I could find out of Luton today, and that is taking us to Dublin. And I'll tell you how much that ticket costs later on in the video. But first, I'm not very familiar with Luton, so I need to get into the terminal and see what we have to do. But I'm pretty sure it should just be like everything else. I've got my boarding pass on my phone. We'll go straight through security. I've obviously got nothing to check in. And yeah, we'll see what Ryanair is like. It's very colourful here, look. Lots of Wizz Air aircraft. And the EasyJet building over there.
Luton Airport is one of the oldest operational airports in the UK, opening in 1938, and it will always hold a special place in my heart thanks to the famed show Airline I used to watch as a kid.
You let me know whether you'll be refunding the transfers, the other end, and the hotel.
I can't say that.
Why can't you say that?
Because I don't have that information to give. We don't have that information to give.
You don't have it? Someone's got it.
No, there's a complaint procedure in place. What we're recommending...
procedure, mate. We want to get to Barcelona tonight.
So made it through security. It was really, really quick actually. I wasn't expecting that. Through in about 2 minutes. And they actually waved me through to use the fast track security as well because they were quite quiet. So very, very good experience so far. I've just walked through duty free and now in this big shed of a building I'm trying to find a view of a plane, and I think I can see a nice Wizz Air A320 sat there. I think they look really cool. I really like to try Wizz Air actually one day. I've never flown on them either, but today we're flying on Ryanair, which is an airline I've never flown on before, so that's one at least ticked off the list. With all that then, I've got about half an hour or so until they're going to announce my gate number, which means I should probably go and find somewhere to sit down, although to be honest, I just need a window like that so I can look at the aircraft.
With there not being much to take my fancy in terms of eating options and no ability to access any lounges, and also in keeping in theme with today's low cost theme, it was a Boots meal deal for me. Despite this being an early morning flight during the middle of the working week, Luton Airport was pretty quiet, and with no time, it was time now to board our plane. I've never quite understood why people pay extra for speedy boarding, because in this case on this Ryanair flight, all they got to do was get to a room where we all ended up sitting earlier than everyone else. Other than that, the whole boarding process was very, very simple, and it was time to take my first glimpse at this Ryanair 737 taking us to Dublin. I was quite near the front of the aircraft on this flight in row 7, and it turned out that once boarding was complete, there was nobody in the middle seat. If you haven't flown on Ryanair before, then as soon as you sit down, you'll be striked in the face by the very, very yellow advertising placard on the back of the seat. Other than that, my bag slipped under the seat in front of me very nicely, and I have to say, all in all, the sort of cleanliness and finish and legroom of this seat, very good. I was quite impressed. As is pretty commonplace on short-haul aircraft, there were individual air vents for some cool air if you require it, and also on that very yellow placard, you could scan a QR code to download and access the Ryanair in-flight menu while still on the ground, which was fantastic. We pushed back on time and then made our way over to the Westerly runway for our departure this morning. I always find it very funny taxiing around Luton. It seems like the equivalent of a tight car park if you're in a car. It seems like there's not much space between the wingtips and buildings and other aircraft at certain points during the taxi. Now, it was all going very well until the precise moment when we taxied onto the runway, the strobe lights came on, the call bell dinged a couple of times to let the crew know we were taking off, and then a lady in the row in front of me decided to get up and walk towards the front of the cabin. She was quickly shunned back to her seat by the crew in the jump seats at the front of the aircraft, and then we immediately proceeded to spool up the engines and take off. That could have been a very different scenario for the lady that decided to stand up if the captain had spooled up the engines just 10 seconds before. Nonetheless, after the fear of being struck by a flying woman on takeoff, we did enjoy a very, very spectacular and powerful departure out of Luton, breaking through the clouds before tucking into my packet of crisps. Further to my comments earlier, the seat proved to be pretty comfortable to sit on. It was actually more padded than you'd find on one of BA's new engine option Airbuses with the very thin, slimline Recaro seats. I found this to actually be more padded and comfortable than those. The crew in this flight were actually extremely professional, sort of just did their job and not much else, but it was all very efficient and just, well, much better than I expected for Ryanair, to be honest.
Into the flight, we're just already commencing our descent into Dublin, and it's been really good so far.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have just reached our destination this time. As we are on our descent into Dublin, we ask to enter to your seat and check into your seatbelt as securely fastened. With the tray table are in the upright and low position, your armrest down, window flaps fully open. Any bags we have removed during the flight must now be stowed for landing. Ensuring the emergency in the cabin and catch completely all baggage. No further standing in the cabin aisle, and if the toilet is no longer permitted, we will additional thank you.
It was a gorgeous but a little bit blustery approach into Dublin, and although I neglected to point the camera there this time, the same lady from that takeoff incident did also decide to stand up on final approach. I was actually wondering whether we were going to have to do a go around, but luckily she did sit back down, although not in her own seat, and we landed safely. So then, how much did this flight from London to Dublin on Ryanair cost me? Well, £9.99, which I think is extremely good value. On this particular occasion, I did elect to select my seat, which cost almost as much as the flight at £8, but all in all things considered, I was genuinely very, very impressed, not only with the value of this airfare, but with the whole Ryanair experience. It was, when you consider the price, fantastic value for money.
Well, welcome to Dublin then on what was my first ever Ryanair flight, and I have to say it was really, really pleasant, much better than I was expecting, apart from the only thing, which was that woman that decided to keep getting up. Not only did she get up as we were literally taxiing on the runway for takeoff, but she also stood up after the seatbelt signs had been switched on for landing and just proceeded to just stand at the front of the aircraft for a couple of minutes. Very strange. I hope she's okay. But anyway, apart from that, super pleasant flight. Only about 50 minutes here over to Dublin. I brought my own snacks. Couldn't actually access the Ryanair menu, which was a bit of a shame, but in terms of the seat itself, I mean, because there's no seat pocket, it doesn't feel any more cramped than, say, a BA economy flight, which was surprising. I thought it would feel much more cramped than it did. Anyway, so actually, very, very impressed indeed, and can strongly recommend Ryanair for you guys too, and I'm sure I'll be flying them again in the future. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.